those folks who weren't active, engaged in the right type of programming. We just put in a funding request for about 2,000 units. So we've got a 4,000 unit gap in the amount of people that if everyone today said I want to be housed, there'd be 4,000 people that say, I'm going to put you on a really big wait list. I'm sorry. We need to get to that functional zero. And as I look at it, you know, homelessness is an outcome of a lot of things. Education, employment, health. Because the second biggest indicator for the reason why people end up in homelessness is a major health event. You heard Dave talk about that. If we would put, and I think just about foster children, 300% more likely to wind up homeless at some point in their life. The amount of money we invest in a foster child with the foster placement and all the government supports wrapped around them, if our community could come around families and individuals on the street and say, we're your foster family collectively, and we're going to make the same type of systemic investment in you, because people here in Las Vegas don't have the family, the friend, the support network. They're all back east or somewhere far west from here. We would make less investment in an adult with treatment and getting them off the street and housed with case management and supports. Forget the systemic savings to jail and hospitals. We would make less investment in them than we would a foster child. We would stabilize our community. We would build those 4,000 or 5,000 very quickly. We can make big change and have a whole lot of Daves in the world writing great stories and collaborating with other people to grab income. So just to change the way we look and start saying, this is our community. These are our people. These are our neighbors. We need to invest in them the way we do other systems of care, even if it's not as sexy. They matter. That would be my punch list.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I'm going to bang on the drum of we need more community support, both financially from the business community. I feel like there's a huge lacking. Other successful communities that are working on ending homelessness, such as Utah. Utah has done a great job. They have the business community support. So it's like a three-legged stool. There's the business community, the government, and then the agencies. And I feel really like that's what we're lacking. And we need that support from the private citizens, and we need people to just step up and say, hey, we're just going to do it, because government is throwing enough time and energy into it, and so we need people to take the lead. So that's really what I see.
We're going to get to some action steps before we call it a night, but thank you, Merideth.
Yeah, and to add to that, more awareness. I mean, people really need to know about an issue, especially a complex issue like homelessness, before they can understand it and get involved in it. And especially awareness when it comes to the financial side of homelessness. Nevada, of course, is still a very libertarian state, anti-tax state. That's changed a little bit, but not entirely. But if and there's tons of surveys on this that show that housing a person is so much cheaper than having them out on the streets where they're going to the jail, the cops are having to do work, where they're going to the hospital to get major surgery that they can't pay for. I think if we were to lay out the financial benefits of housing people and have more awareness in that sense, it would really, really help.
Well, you know, why don't we piggyback on Merideth as we move along here a bit, and why don't each of you kind of let us know what the average person could and should do. I mean, we got an audience here of people that obviously from the general public that came here because they care about the issue. If you were to think of how the average person can truly join with your work, make a difference in a tangible way, what would you want?
David touched on this, and I totally agree. Befriend a homeless person. It doesn't cost any money whatsoever. Introduce yourself. Hey, do you need anything? Bring them a pair of socks or a pair of underwear occasionally, and get to know them. That can really make a big difference in their lives. And I've seen that actually be enough to get someone motivated to get off the streets.
Yeah, actually, Dave said as well, it's not always sandwiches and handouts. As a matter of fact, sometimes I would say what you can do, get involved in the system. I'll make a plug for Project Homeless Connect. This is Homelessness 101. You want to get your feet wet, you want to meet a homeless individual, you want to put a face to the issue, come to Project Homeless Connect, serve as a guide that day, and we'll sign you up when we're done here. But give into systems, things that work, because a lot of money is spent actually cleaning up after sandwiches and these big gives that make people feel good when they go back to suburbia. And that money is diverted from the systems that need to help pour more money into the housing system. So given the systems that are measurable, that work, that are in the forefront of making sure that everything's coordinated, I would just kind of caution on the haphazard things that may just work for a moment. Let's look at long-term solutions, and there's a ton of partners here. Network, get a business card from a nonprofit. Arnie's here from Veterans Village. Mob him when we get done talking. Plug in, volunteer somewhere.
And to touch on the Project Homeless Connect, not only connect there, but maybe connect with an agency, and you can follow that client. But I always urge people, if you're going to volunteer, do it under the supervision of an agency. It's so much safer. What you don't know about the client. The agencies know the homeless, they know the streets, and so I would advise you, get connected, get plugged in with an agency where you connect. We find out where you're a great fit, and follow that client along through the process and help them be the extra eyes and ears of the case manager.
Now I was going to say that Michelle might go the wrong way for you, so I want to get you in on this.
Get out your iPad, your phone, your calendar. Right now. Go ahead. Pull out your phone. Pull out your phone. Pull out your a notepad or a calendar. November 19th. November 19th is Project Homeless Connect. You go to the United Way website, sign up to be a volunteer for Project Homeless Connect. Now scroll forward to January of 2015. January 28th and 29th, middle of the night. Block it off right now, ask for your time off, make sure that you give babysitting, whatever you need, so that you can be out with us, so that we can ensure that we are counting every one of our citizens that find themselves without a roof over their head, because it's important for us to know who we have that is on the street, who we have to house, and it helps us to justify to our federal partners that we need more assistance, that we need more funding to partner with all of you and all of our business partners in the community so that we can help our folks.
I want to give us a chance to ask some questions. I'm going to kind of add our 8:30, but I just want to go down the line before I bring Dave up and we open it up for questions. If each of you could just, this is more from the heart, I guess, if you will, what do you want an audience to know most about homelessness? If you had one thing to share with this group that you want them to take with them, what would that takeaway be? And you just pass the mic down and bring Dave up and they need to put you on the spot.
I think it's that the folks that we encounter that are homeless are just like you and I. They've just found themselves in a situation where they don't have a roof over their head. And it is possible that we can get to functional zero with everybody's help, with the collective we.
Need a few. I was going to say something
Ah, she stole it, huh?
Yeah, there's a statement that's on my desk at work that reminds me every day when I walk in, but by the grace of God go I. Made some of the same decisions that Dave made, and luck, karma, fate, whatever. I'm here, and we need to all recognize that these aren't just stats. These are people. They're stories. They're lives. They are depression. They are addiction. They're children. They're parents, and we need to remember all those many aspects. Homelessness is just a symptom of where someone is in the moment. So that was my pass along.
For me, since I have been homeless with a master's degree, much like Dave, did not fall into alcoholism, but it happened to me. It could happen to you. I pray that it doesn't. It's horrible. But also just the mental health component. And now looking back, I realize that I suffered from severe depression at that time. It does happen. And so just helping those individuals. We wouldn't shy away from helping someone that had cancer or heart disease. So it's just the same thing. It's, disease of the head that's affecting our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers.
All right, you're up, man. You've got time.
Well, the news release you guys put out mentioned this. It is one of the major issues of our time. It's a very big issue, and it's not going away. It's getting worse, and I fear that if it's not addressed, that it could lead to serious consequences at some point.
Okay, why don't you come join us back up here? So what I'm going to do is we're going to turn it out, and I ask you just to keep it to a quick question, so that, because we've got just about 10 minutes, and I want to make sure that we get a chance for as many people here to talk. And here, Dave, we can move this up for you. And you can either, you can either ask it directly to someone, or we can just open it to the panel. I saw your hand first, my friend.
I know we have like somewhere around 9,000 homeless children and families that are living with friends, couch surfing, living in cars and garages.
There is a mic. Thank you.
I know we have about 9,000 children in Clark County who are living in homeless family situations. Their parents are, couch surfing, or they're living with relatives, or they're living in cars or garages. What are we doing for those kids? And I know there are schools here. My wife teaches at one of them that have a large percentage of kids of homeless children. And how do you expect those children to learn and to progress, and not to fall into the same problems as everybody else here? And Dave, thank you for being here today. It was very inspirational. But what are we doing to keep families together with transitional housing and so forth as part of the eliminating homeless here? Thank you.
I just realized we need the mic back up here, don't we? Wasn't a good theory. So go ahead. Who wants to start with that, Michel?
Okay, a couple things. You brought up a great point. The school district, the way the school district counts their homeless children or homeless families is different than what we count our homeless folks in our homeless census that we do for our point in time. The school district includes, as you said, those that are couch surfing, those that are doubled up, those that are in hotel motel, just living week by week. So those numbers don't coincide necessarily directly with what we have for a point in time. And I think you brought up a great point, and I want to acknowledge that, because we do know that there are folks that we aren't focusing on specifically with some of our funding sources. That being said, rapid rehousing is really the push that we have in our community, and many of our federal partners have for families. We found nationally that rapidly rehousing families, giving them some rental assistance and some case management for a short period of time so they can get their feet up underneath them and get more stable, that those folks then can exit our homeless system with success and then not recycle back into our system. So with that, to answer the question, what are we doing? That's what we are doing. That's the model that we're using that is proven successful. What we need more of is we need more monies for rental assistance, for utility assistance to pay for back utilities, and for case management to wrap around with that rental assistance and the utilities.
You mentioned transitional housing, which for folks who may not know is traditionally up to 2 years someone can be in transitional housing program, but the research in the last 2 years, especially coming out of New York, has shown that it wasn't really as effective as a rapid rehousing, because invariably what the systems did was back off, let the families just coast for 2 years and start dealing with them in about 90 days prior to exit. None of their issues that they brought into the system had been addressed, so it was not a successful thing. So the federal government is pushing us away from traditional transitional housing and much more into this rapidly, let's get families back on their feet, get them what they need, and try to get them plugged back into sufficiency and employment and those things as quickly as possible. Fewer days on the street, fewer costs long term, better outcomes.
I think we got a question over here, Jerry.
Sure. Hi. One of the things you said earlier was that the private sector has not been engaged, and that's correct. If you had 3 things, very concrete things, make a wish that the private sector is suddenly engaged. What are the top 3 things you would ask of them, number 1? And number 2, is there, or could there be within a very short period of time, a specific plan to say, business community, here are the 3 things that we need?
I'll start with the mic man, I'll pass it down the row, and if you want to chime in, Dave, please. I would say absolutely. The places where the business community has made the major impact has been those social venture capital investments. They've seeded the social impact bonds. They've said, we're going to be willing to pay for these out-of-the-box programs that the restricted, dedicated tax funds can't do from local government if you're willing to pay for the outcome performance on the backside. So if you want 85% of your people housed successfully and to go through treatment, then you pay for that. We're going to start, we'll fund the startup costs of these nonprofit programs. We'll do the rental assistance, the case management, the treatment. You pay for the outcomes on year 2. And those are the types of things that drive systems to change. So long as, and I'll say it, so long as the safeguarders of the system are the ones pushing and leading, systems are slow to change. Intentional disruptors with social capital, those are the things that make change.
Got 3, you got 3, that's only 4. You got 2 more.
All the money right there.
That's good, that's a good start.
We have a homeless trust fund that is, that United Way is the holder of our regional homeless trust fund. I would say put some money into that homeless trust fund so that we can utilize that money for rental assistance, for IDs, for transportation, and for case management. So that, as I said, you know, those are things that we desperately need if we are going to make change. So add that with Tim's collective change.
Supportive employment. Create employment opportunities. If 80% of employment for individuals with a mental illness, hire again if they're on the street. Create a venue so that the individuals can get employment, give back to the community, become a contributor. And there just aren't supportive employment opportunities in this community where, you know, honestly, we get 150 apps for one job opening, and we've got young kids coming out of college who are going up against guys like me for an entry-level job. It's cutthroat in the job market right now. So how much further? We've got to create new employment venues. Homeboy Industries did it great in LA. Took gangbangers, trained them how to make clothing, how to branded it, push it out there. Self-sufficient business model has been working for years. We've got to find things like that, but it takes people with resources and ingenuity and creativity to pull things off like this we're sitting in to be able to make those things happen.
Hey, you got something, Dan?
Yeah. It's a little bit different. You know, I can't speak much to city government and how they're tremendously helping. But what I can say, from an individual who is quite an awful lot like many of the other homeless people, we don't have ID. We don't have state ID. We don't have, good example, I'm a lost soul. I've tried 4 times to get my birth certificate out of LA County, through the state, through LA County. I'm an alien. They can't find me. I can't get a birth certificate. Can't have a birth certificate. I can't get a Nevada ID. Big circle of abuse going on right there, right with me in the middle of it. I won't name names, but I tried with one of the agencies. I know my California driver's license number. I know the city and the county in which I last was registered as a California driver. My case manager, LaWanna Calhoun, and I filled out the California application. Problem is, this agency wouldn't pony up $20 and a letter or a envelope to send it off to California to get my, at least, my California ID. And I got an Arizona ID, but I can't get that either. One of the things that happens to homeless an awful lot are 3 things. We get our cell phones stolen, hot commodities out there. We get our walkers stolen. I've had cat meow. I've had Geronimo's Cadillac before. And you look left and somebody steals it from the right. Happens all the time. These are things that we as the homeless have to deal with. And I think it plays into what we've just been talking about.
Any question? I think,
Hi. I love Las Vegas. I'm going to start by saying that. But it seems to me as though it might be one of the worst places in the world for someone with cross-addictive mental illness and homelessness issues. And a lot of people do flock here, okay, for a number of reasons, which is interesting. And then, you know, we look at, we want to take care of our people, but they keep coming and coming and coming. So how do we dissuade people from being part of the Vegas community when they have all these issues? Look, it's readily access to a lot of bad things, especially if you have addictive things, and we're 24 hours. We don't stop here, unlike other